In this video, I want to go over the explosive move Canopy Growth started making about 10 trading days ago when Constellation Brands purchased a huge stake in this cannabis stock. You can see on the daily chart that when this news was announced, the day of the news, Canopy Growth traded 35 million shares, which was 7 times higher than the average daily volume at that time. A very explosive, game-changing day for the stock. And up until that point, Canopy Growth had merely been in a sideways trading range for all of 2018 and kind of started trying to break into a new stage 2 uptrend back in May and June. But that ultimately started failing and it moved back down into the trading range. And this news event really caught, I think this sector totally off guard. You can see that Canopy was starting to actually almost break down even further and maybe retest the low of this trading range. And instead, when this news was announced, 35 million shares were traded, and all of a sudden it was game on, and this stock was under massive accumulation. So I think one of the important lessons to learn from what's happened here is how quickly things can change in the market. And if you're not willing to change your mind on the market and kind of bend with the market and actually get into this sector right when this is happening, you can miss a big move very rapidly. And this move actually even caught me by surprise. I remember 10 days ago when this first happened, I was taken off guard because these stocks had been trading pretty poorly for the previous 2 months. But when you see a stock experience explosive volume like this, and it's already been in a gradual uptrend over the last couple of years, but still kind of trapped in a trading range, but it started to bull flag after the announcement, and then the volume has just continued to be explosive in this stock. And this is really volume that's coming in from institutions. Like before, this stock was trading about 5 million or less shares, maybe even like 3 or 4 million shares a day, which is about 80 to 100 million dollars worth of stock. Now it's trading in the hundreds of millions to billions of dollars of stock are trading hands now each day, which shows that the type of players that are involved in this stock have really ramped up to a lot bigger players. And it's caused this stock to break out of this trading range, and now we're in a bona fide stage 2 uptrend. And what's interesting about what's happened here is if you take a look at Aurora Cannabis, which is another Canadian cannabis producer, when the Canopy Growth news came out, Aurora only traded about 5 million shares that day. But if you look at what's happened since then, the trading volume on Aurora has gradually increased. And this kind of tells me that, even when this news was announced, a lot of people talk about how hedge funds and large institutions have a big advantage over the smaller player because of information and how they can get it quicker than the smaller investor. But this shows me that institutions still take a long time to accumulate stock, and the bigger money still doesn't. Things don't happen as quickly as you might think when stocks are under accumulation in uptrends. And I think this shows that I think the market's still reacting to what's happened here and how this beverage infused cannabis concept that Constellation Brands is thinking about doing, and other um, wine and liquor producers and beer companies and even pharmaceutical companies might get involved and want to produce drugs based on cannabis. There's a lot of different players that are probably going to get involved in this industry. And I think what you've seen since the Constellation announcement is just, in other stocks, other cannabis stocks, you're seeing further signs of institutional accumulation. So we're seeing it again in Aurora, bigger volume, and then another stock, Kronos Group, again, when the news on Canopy came out, less than 10 million shares, but the last couple trading days, just absolutely outrageous volume, 70 million shares almost a couple days ago. And this stock has been, has totally, finally gotten out of its trading range and is starting to exceed its January 2018 highs. So now if you look at some of these cannabis stocks from a stage analysis perspective on a weekly chart, one of the things that I think is interesting what's going on right now is the U.S. listed producers, which are Canopy and Kronos and Tilray, are making new all-time highs, whereas two of the bigger players in Canada, Aurora and Aphria, are still way below their January 2018 highs. So Aurora and Aphria are actually two of my favorite plays right now because they're a much better risk reward ratio to their 30-week moving average. You can see that Aphria isn't even 25% above its 30-week moving average yet. So it has good risk reward right here, and it's just started to do a stage 2 breakout on massive volume out of this, tight consolidation trading range. And, Canopy's already way up here making new all-time highs. So I think a lot of these other cannabis stocks are going to start playing catch up in a big way and probably outperform some of the other stocks that have already gone up a tremendous amount. Now, if you look at Canopy from a longer term perspective, you can see that it is making new all-time highs. The volume is absolutely enormous now. We aren't as overbought though yet as we have been at past major peaks in the life cycle of this stock, and I think we're just on the cusp of, we're still very early in a stage 2 advance here, a stage 2 continuation breakout. Like I said, plenty of the other cannabis producers are still barely coming off their consolidation lows, and I fully expect some of these stocks to make big moves above the 30-week moving average before they finally top out. I wouldn't be surprised to see some of these stocks maybe even close to 200% above their 30-week moving average when this stage 2 uptrend ends, because of how explosive this has been so far on the breakout. So one thing that'll be interesting to see is if these stocks continue to go straight up, they could flame out more quickly. But if they take the time to consolidate a little bit as this uptrend goes on, I think we could see a really nice run in these stocks over the next couple months. I'll definitely be covering these stocks at nextbigtrade.com, and you can see that I've written a lot of articles on cannabis stocks over the last year or so, probably more than any other website I've seen on the internet. So definitely check out nextbigtrade.com. You can click on the cannabis category and see some of the articles I've written in the past on cannabis stocks. One of the things that happened with me last year is some of the cannabis stocks were actually some of my biggest trades. If you look at what happened to Aurora Cannabis heading into the end of 2017, it completed a big stage 1 kind of basing pattern after a previous rally, and then towards the end of 2017, enormous volume started coming in, and it was a monster trade for me, and I'm sure a lot of other people back at the end of 2017, and that led into this top in early 2018, and there was a big decline in these stocks. These stocks lost over 50% after this rally, so that's another reason why you want to take partial profits and not hold stocks, not hold your entire position if you're holding for the long term. It's definitely, when stocks get this stretched, you want to take some money off the table. But now we're at the opposite situation where we've consolidated for almost a year. We're breaking out in big volume, and I think we've got some pretty explosive moves coming up potentially for this sector. So it should be interesting. Thanks for watching this video, and definitely check out more stuff at nextbigtrade.com.